Before diving into this emotional rollercoaster, imagine a love that hides in plain sight for a decade, unspoken but burning stronger with every passing year, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back into your life when you least expect it. What if the man you rented as your fake boyfriend to escape marriage pressures turned out to be the very CEO who has secretly loved you for 10 long years? Stay with me till the very end, because this isn't just a love story, it's a tale of destiny, heartbreak, betrayal, hidden truths, and a romance so powerful that it will leave you breathless. Don't forget to subscribe now if you crave stories filled with drama, suspense, and shocking twists that will keep you turning pages late into the night. To dodge marriage, she rents a man as boyfriend, not knowing he's the CEO who loved her for 10 years. It all began on a rainy evening in the bustling city of Lahore, when Alina, a 25-year-old woman trapped between her family's traditional expectations and her own dreams of independence, found herself sitting across from her mother and aunt, who were once again reminding her that she was past the right age for marriage, and that suitors were lining up but losing patience, and that a good girl from a respectable family couldn't stay single forever. Yet Alina's heart had never leaned toward marriage. She was determined to focus on her career, her passions, and her freedom, but her relatives' endless nagging left her desperate. So when her best friend Zara casually mentioned an app where one could rent a boyfriend for weddings or social gatherings to avoid pressure, Alina laughed it off at first, but the very next day, after her mother arranged another tea meeting with a wealthy businessman's son she had no interest in, Alina secretly downloaded the app and scrolled through profiles, her heart racing with guilt and thrill, until one face stopped her completely: a tall, confident man with deep, piercing eyes, a charming smile that seemed both warm and dangerous, and a profile description that read, "reliable, respectful, can play any role you need." Without overthinking, she clicked book, and prayed this stranger would save her from the suffocating dinner ahead, not realizing that the man she had chosen was none other than Ayan Malik, the elusive, enigmatic CEO of one of the country's most powerful corporations, who had built an empire from scratch, who women whispered about in admiration, and who carried a secret no one knew, that for 10 years, he had loved one girl in silence, Alina herself. The night of the dinner came, and Alina arrived with her rented boyfriend, her family stunned at the sight of him. His tailored suit, his commanding aura, the way his protective hand rested lightly on the small of her back as if it belonged there. And while her relatives grilled him with questions, he answered smoothly, blending fiction with truth, spinning a story of how they had met at university and stayed in touch, how their friendship blossomed into love, and Alina, though nervous, found herself playing along, shocked at how natural it felt, how his gaze locked on her with something deeper than performance, something that made her heart beat unevenly. And when the night ended, she thanked him with awkward politeness, ready to pay and part ways, but he refused the money with a soft smile, saying, "Consider this a favor. You don't owe me anything," and walked away into the night, leaving Alina confused and strangely restless. What she didn't know was that Ayan hadn't stumbled onto that app by accident. He owned it as a side venture, but when he saw her name pop up, his heart nearly stopped, and he seized the chance he had been waiting for all these years. Their paths crossed again and again, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes because Ayan arranged it, until Alina realized she felt safer and happier in his presence than she had in years. Yet she couldn't explain why he seemed to know her favorite tea, her childhood dream of painting, or the small scar on her wrist she got when she was 12, because she had forgotten him, but he had never forgotten her. Back in high school, when she defended him against bullies who mocked him for being poor, she became the light that guided his ambitions, the reason he worked day and night to climb from poverty into power, swearing silently that one day he'd be worthy of her, and though life separated them, his love never wavered. Slowly, Alina began to sense that he was not just a hired companion, and her suspicion grew the night he pulled her out of danger when one of her persistent suitors tried to corner her in a parking lot. Ayan's fists landed hard, his voice thundered with protective rage, and in the quiet after, when she trembled in his arms, she whispered, "Who are you really?" But he only replied, "Someone who won't let anyone hurt you." The deeper she fell into this web of mystery, the more her heart betrayed her, because though she told herself this was temporary, though she reminded herself he was rented, her soul whispered otherwise, and she found herself dreaming of him, her chest aching when he wasn't near, her cheeks flushing when his hand brushed hers. The grand twist came when her father, impressed by Ian's presence, began pushing her toward marrying him instead of the other suitor, and Alina panicked, thinking the lie had gone too far. But when she confronted Ian, demanding they end the act before it destroyed them, he finally dropped the mask, revealing his true identity as CEO, revealing the decade of silent love, revealing that every time he smiled at her it wasn't an act but the truth of his soul. At first, Alina felt betrayed, angry that he hadn't told her sooner, accusing him of manipulation, but his confession shattered her walls. For 10 years, Alina, I built myself for you. I stayed in shadows because I thought you deserved better than a poor boy who had nothing. But I couldn't stand aside anymore. I didn't come into your life to play pretend. I came to finally claim the place beside you I've always belonged. The revelation rocked her world, and she pushed him away, overwhelmed by the pressure of her family, her own doubts, and the fear that perhaps his love was obsession. But as days passed, she realized no one had ever fought for her the way he did. No one had looked at her as if she was the center of the universe. No one had believed in her dreams so fiercely. When her family discovered the truth of his empire, they instantly approved, but Alina's acceptance came not from his wealth or power but from the quiet moments. How he listened to her ramblings, how he encouraged her art, how he carried her burdens without complaint, how his love had endured 10 years without expectation of return. In a climactic twist, the suitor she had once rejected tried to blackmail her family with false accusations, and it was Ian who stood before the press, shielding her honor, publicly declaring, "She is the only woman I've ever loved, the only one I will ever love, and I will protect her against the world if I must." His words broke the last chains around her heart, and she finally stepped forward, taking his hand, saying in front of everyone, "You were never rented, you were mine all along." Their love story bloomed not as a fairy tale of riches but as the triumph of destiny, patience, and unwavering devotion, and though Alina once rented a man to dodge marriage, she ended up finding the man who had already given her 10 years of silent loyalty, a CEO who proved that the greatest wealth in life was love that endured every storm. And so, the story ends with her painting their first portrait together, smiling through tears as he kissed her forehead, whispering, "This time, you won't forget me," while she laughed and replied, "I never will again."